I'm Sister Helen Prejean, Prejean, and I wrote the book Dead Man Walking. I'm against the death penalty because I've accompanied 6 people to execution and watched the whole process and what's involved in actually killing a human being. And granted, most of those I've been with have been people who have done unspeakable crimes, which causes me to feel outrage over their crimes. But when you're close to what it means for us to have government power to say, okay, we can kill our citizens, it involves guards, good men, whose job gets to be included to take a person and kill them one night or one evening. And I've also known victims' families enough now to know that the death penalty, that very few, less than 1% of all homicide victims are offered this, they call it justice. 15 or 20 years later, send a representative to watch the state kill the one who killed their loved one and to see what happens to them. That it does not provide healing or closure. And then I also see there is no humane way to kill a conscious, imaginative human being. Because even if it's a painless death physically and they just put you to sleep and the drug works, a lot of times the drugs aren't working because they're experimenting with the drugs now. The mental anguish to prepare and anticipate death is always extreme, and so to torture citizens, at least mentally, and then kill them is not worthy of us as people. I see it changing. We've been at it about 30 years. You know, the Supreme Court put it back in 1976. The very year Canada abolished it, even though the people in Parliament used 70% of Canadians said they wanted it. We started it in 76 and we've killed over 3,000 people. And we began to see, beginning in 2001, the number of executions sought, death penalties sought, the number that take place in support of the public began to drop. And it's been dropping ever since. So that now the latest was 60%. And that's when you don't offer the alternative question, do you prefer death or life without parole? I've found with a lot of the American public, once they know they can be safe from a person who's done a terrible crime, the desire for the state to kill them diminishes a lot. So now we have over 50% of people who are now saying, I prefer life without parole. I think one of the things that's really impacting that a lot is now we know we can make mistakes. Because there are 144 wrongfully convicted people who have come off a death row, and they made mistakes. 90% of the cases was what you call prosecutorial misconduct, because prosecution that's going for the death penalty has control of the evidence. And so they have the DNA, they have the eyewitnesses, they have the original police report. There's a man, Anthony Porter, in Illinois, who was kept on death row, and the students at Northwestern got involved in his case in the Innocence Project and found out that the original police report showed there had been another suspect all along. But they quelched that because they were going after Anthony Porter. And once they start pursuing it, then in that way the students were the ones who were the heroes and uncovered that this man was the wrong man, and it got him free. It's shaken our confidence in the criminal justice system to know that we not only make mistakes, we make a lot of mistakes. And we thought setting out, we had the best court system in the world, we'd never make mistakes. That's influencing public opinion too, I think. First, of course, we have to take death off the table. And I just want to add to that before I get to the alternative. So the alternative to death is life. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights calls the right to life. It's a right everybody has, it's universal. And when you have death off the table when a terrible crime happens, it's not available to a jury to give it who feel in conscience they should. For example, Oklahoma City, 168 people were killed. How could that jury with the death penalty go in and not give the death penalty? It'll look like they're dishonoring the victims if they don't give the ultimate punishment. So the alternative to death is life. But we have to take a real serious look at the long, long sentences we're giving people. People tend to classify people who have done violence as in their essence, they're violent people and they're going to kill again. Put them in prison, they're going to start killing guards. Most people that do violence and that kill someone, and this is from the warden of the Louisiana State Penitentiary, a tough prison in Angola, in Louisiana, said, "Sister, you know who by and large makes our best trustees in this prison? The people who came in for murder. They didn't know when they got up that morning they were going to murder anybody. They got involved in something, they had a gun." Most murders are not these premeditated, monstrous acts. They're people who get in a situation, especially if they're on drugs or alcohol, and the availability of guns. All you got to do with a gun is this, and the person's dead. And if you're at a high emotional pitch and you're angry, at least if you stab somebody, you got to hit a vital organ. But boom, and the person's dead. Some murders, there are some people that we call sociopaths who kill, and the wiring in their brain is messed up. They don't feel anything because there's a disconnect. And we do have to protect ourselves from them. And the first job of a prison is classification of prisoners. So they have a lockdown section where they keep the prisoners under strict surveillance in a cell by themselves or one other person, and don't let them in the general population.
Your organization, I think it's called Survive, that counsels families of victims of violence. In general, would you be able to, discuss what those families think about your work against the death penalty? Do they generally support you, or are they against it, or?
Of the 6 people I have accompanied to execution, generally the family of the one being executed has you on a seesaw. And if you're against the execution, they feel you're against them. But families are so lost, they're so traumatized, that people who reach out to them, like Survive, we started in New Orleans, because when I went to a support group for murder victims' families, what most of them said was, everybody leaves us alone because they don't know what to do with our pain, so they stay away from us. So there's a great need to start a lot of groups like that. And those people, respect me because they know I'm trying to help them. In fact, most victims' families in this country, they have 2 really good, wonderful groups called Murder Victims for Reconciliation and Murder Victims for Human Rights. They're all people who have been through murder, but they realize that the killing of the one who killed their loved one victimizes another family, another mother. It's going to lose their child. So you have people of varying sensibilities. The murder victims' families, I know, generally the journey to wholeness and healing starts with extreme anger and outrage, where they want to kill the person with their own bare hands, and who can blame them for that? But that if people have love and help, if people have children, if people have grandchildren, because they have a way of helping you stay alive, then you can move on in your life. What the interesting thing is that when New Jersey did away with the death penalty, 62 murder victims' families testified before the legislature saying, "Don't kill for us." Because they said the death penalty re-victimizes us. We're told we're going to get this closure, this healing, this justice. Wait 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and our wound is open. It's in public, and the media is at our door every time there's a change in the case. Let him disappear behind prison walls, and we never want to hear his name again. And there's even a kind of notoriety when people are executed. You know what they ate for their last meal, what their last words were. The victims' families often don't know what the last words of their loved ones were, and there's a kind of notoriety that goes with it. I've been finding out that discussion on the death penalty, the closer the American people come to it and really reflect on it, the easier it is for them to put it down, and we see it.